Welcome to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast, presented by Mark Mitchell, a sales and marketing consultant who specializes in helping building materials companies overcome difficult sales problems. Mark is the author of the book Building Materials Channel Marketing and a frequent speaker at industry events.
Hello, this is Mark Mitchell from Wizard Strategy. I'd like to talk to you today about, I guess I would call it, why building materials customers don't listen. I frequently see where the building material companies I work with can become quite frustrated that the customers they're talking to just don't get it. It's almost like they say, gosh darn it, I know my product is better. Why don't they understand, or why don't they buy it? And I find that there's a lot of reasons why this is. And I would say most of these companies I work with do have a better product when looked at it from their perspective. And the first problem that I find is they will say it's a better product, but the question to the decision maker, be it a builder, a contractor, an architect, is it's better for who? Okay. Is it better for a home buyer? But not really better for the home builder? That many times that's a problem, is they go, well, the homeowner will save energy. And the builder will say, well, I'm already building energy efficient homes to code. So why do I need to have the homeowner save any more energy at an added cost to myself? So it's always thinking and making sure that the better for who, why it's better for the customer you're talking to. The second problem many times is that in your customer's mind, the product, they may very well say, yes, that's a better product, but it's more than I need or more than this project can afford. So it's almost like presenting a Mercedes car to an architect or a builder or contractor who has a Chevrolet budget. They will undoubtedly say, that's a much better car. I don't have the budget for that. And so it's matching up the needs of, the reality of the situation your customer's in. The next series of reasons why they don't get it is most of the time, they're not having a problem with what they're doing today. If they're not using your product, they're using something, and it's probably working to their mind just fine. So they're not looking, if there isn't a problem, they're not looking to create one. And they're also not looking for better ideas. They're just too busy today to be looking for things like better ideas for the most part. They are overwhelmed with challenges and problems and changes that are required of them, such as a change in a building code or an owner wants, and it's everything they do to keep up with those. So they're not looking for better ideas. They're also not looking for a science lesson. They're not looking to be taught how technically to build a better building. While they are looking to be educated, there seems to be a way that many building material companies approach things, particularly technical things, where I literally see the builder wanting to run the other way when he sees the sales representative coming, because he's going to get a science lesson in how a home should be built that he doesn't want. Now, the outcome of many of these, the feeling that's the architect, the builder, the contractor can easily be left with, is that you're telling them they're not doing a good job. They're not designing a good building. They're not building a good house. They're not doing, for a contractor, a good job. Okay? You're insulting these people. And, they start out every day saying, I build a good home. I design great buildings. I do great projects based on what I have, based on I'm still in business, based on people buy my products. So don't start by telling me or inferring to me that I'm not building or doing a good job. There's nothing worse than getting someone feeling like that you are insulting them or getting them on the defensive. Now, then the next mistake that I find building material manufacturers make is going in with the simple statement of like, well, you'll make more money, as if the most important thing they think about every day when they get up is how am I going to make more money? Well, if that was their main focus, they could also invest in stocks. They could buy gold. They could flip houses, or they could start selling in some pyramid sales organization. There are many, many ways every day people are telling us we're going to make more money. And because we're inundated with that, it's just not believable. So when you just go in and say, you'll make more money with our product, that is not a very good strategy. Now, what you really want to keep in mind is that your customer is much more motivated by fear of loss or risk than for a potential benefit. We all are this way. So when you see someone, you get an email that says earn an extra $10,000 this year, chances are you're not even going to open it. But if you got an email and the subject line says protect yourself from losing $10,000, a lot more people will open that. So you want to keep in mind that the fear of loss or risk of not using your product or buying from your company, you want to figure out how to make, that the motivating factor rather than it's simply a better choice. Now, what all this adds up to, that you go in with just the simple story about our product's better, or you'll make more money, or some positive you'll build better benefit, is that you have failed to do your homework. So you want to start out by understanding what are they using today. If they're not using your product, what are they using? And you really want to understand why. You don't want to just make an assumption. You really want to understand why is it. Then you want to understand what do they like about it. Is it the product they like better? Is it the price? Or is it simply the company who supplies it, that they are very reliable or they have a long history with them? Now, even with a company or product they really like, you can also find out what they don't like about it, or what do they really wish that could be done better. And I always tell the story about, I'm confident that my wife loves me, but if you sat down with her and said, what do you wish Mark did differently or better, you could fill a legal pad. And the same happens if your prospective customer is buying from your competitor. No matter how much they like them, there are things they wish they could do differently or better. So now you want to ask yourself, can your product, the company supplier, can your installer match the current supplier? Because that's kind of the benchmark of where you need to be. And then can you deliver on the things they wish they could do better? Okay? It's really that simple. They really don't care about the other reasons why you think your product is better. Okay? The reasons you think your products are better are most of the time not on their radar screen. Okay? They are not looking for those benefits. Okay? I want to go back a second and talk again, repeat that about, can you meet the same benchmark as what they're using today? Does your product perform? Is it competitively priced? Do you feel confident that there's not more difficulty with installation? It can be reliably supplied and so forth. And that then you find, what do they wish they could do better? I had a friend who owned a tool and die shop, nothing to do with building materials. But he told me a story about he wanted to grow his business, and he went to a very large plastic packaging company, and he went in to make a sales call about doing some of their tool and die work. And they told him that they had plenty of tool and die suppliers, that they were very happy with them, and they would let him know if they ever had a need. And he took the path that I just recommended to you, and he asked them if those tool and die suppliers could do something different or better, what would it be? Or what is the biggest problem you're having with tool and die suppliers? And the purchasing person looked right at him and said the length of time it takes to complete a project. It takes 90 days. That is our biggest problem. And my friend looked at him and said, so if we could deliver tool and dies at the same price you're paying today, the same quality, and we could do it in half the time, would you be interested? And the purchasing person dropped dead in there, just stopped right in their tracks and said, yes, let's talk. So just following that process of we can do what you are getting today and we can meet your wish list or part of it, you'll be surprised how effective that is, because many times they just make an assumption, well, business isn't done that way, or a company couldn't do this because we've never had it offered to us before. So when you try to get, them interested, they have already a big wish list or problems on a list that they need to fix. Okay? They're not looking to add to those lists. They're looking to shorten that list. So when you know what's on that list, the things that are frustrating them, the things they wish could be better, and sometimes the things that they wouldn't mention to you because they couldn't imagine that you could do it. And so they have those problems. When you show them that your solution can't answer the problem that as they're defining it, they're going to be very interested. So don't waste your time talking about why your product performs better if they're not looking for better performance. It doesn't mean that you don't have a sales message. It just means that better performance is not the message probably to lead with. Okay? Or you could show them perhaps, you mentioned you have this problem. Our product, because it performs better, will resolve that problem for you. But it has to be a problem that's in their mind. So if they're not having a problem with colors fading, they're not having a problem with moisture, then that's not on their radar screen. Okay, they're not looking to do something better that they're not having a problem with. Also, don't assume you know the reasons why they will find your product attractive. Don't rely on research reports or data that says 62% of builders want X. Okay? Every one of those, but that may be a broad overall statement that's correct, but every one of those prospective customers you're calling on is a unique individual in a unique situation with a unique experience that's got them to where they are today and a unique situation that they're in. So you need to also treat everyone as individual as you're doing your homework to find out what are their issues. Now, as you're finding this out, be ready to be surprised at what may interest them most about your product. So, for example, I was recently making a call on a prospective customer with one of my clients. We showed the customer the product and explained that compared to the product he was using, that this product costs less, reduced labor, installation labor, and callbacks because it was easier to install correctly the first time. When we offhandedly mentioned that the product also weighed less, the customer immediately lit up with interest. The weight saving of my client's project were much more important than a lower cost or labor savings or fewer callbacks. Now, this was a panelized manufacturer, and this customer had a problem with weight in that they hadn't thought about that this type of product could weigh less, so they weren't looking for there to find weight reduction solutions. And it was like a light bulb went off in their head, and they went, oh my gosh, we can save this much, and that would have a huge benefit to us if we could save this weight primarily because of shipping. And so the conversation literally went from thanks for stopping by, we'll let you know, to how soon can you get us some products to use in a trial? Just that fast. So be open to what the real problem or opportunity might be. Don't be so smart that you're sure you know what it is. Another important part of this is, in addition to finding the strongest reason why they may be interested in your product, you should also find out what they might be worried about in changing to your product. no matter how good your product sounds to them, there is always a risk in changing. There's always kind of a fear of the unknown. It's like no matter, even if their current supplier is poor, they know how bad they are. You may think you have a great reputation, but if they don't have a history of working with you, they don't know how you're going to perform compared to their current supplier. There's also the unknown factor in which there could be something their current supplier does that you assume they will do as well, such as how it installs or how it's ordered or shipped, whatever it is. And as they start working with you, comes some surprise. Like, we didn't know that your lead times were this, or we didn't know that we had to put 3 more nails in. These are all things they can easily overcome, but they weren't anticipating this problem or hassle or risk, if you will. So once again, be prepared to be surprised. So I recently had a situation where another one of my clients is introducing a new product to a new group of customers. Now, in order to do this, they're building a new plant to make this product. And one of the things that the customers have mentioned to the salespeople is, they've said, I really like your product. I can see its advantages over what we're using today, but I have a concern. With the shortages of trucks today, how do I know you can reliably deliver the product I need when I need it? Now, it's the first time I've ever heard that. But when you look further into it, you realize that the customer has started to be experiencing shipping delays with some of maybe his most reliable suppliers. So he's sitting there thinking, here's a new company, even though it's an existing company, they're building a new plant. So they're new in that area, we'll say wherever the plant's going to be. So in his mind, they don't have a lot of leverage or clout with trucking companies compared to his current suppliers. And so he has a concern. Now, my client was quickly able to explain why he shouldn't be concerned about that they had that figured out. But had they not asked more questions, they might not have ever known that was a question or a doubt in the prospective customer's mind. And they might not have been prepared to answer it convincingly or confidently, but they were able to. So as you wonder why more clients don't say yes, let's just, go back and just remember, just because gosh darn it, my product is better, doesn't mean that it's better for the prospect. It doesn't mean that it's more than they need. It doesn't mean that they see or have a need for it, okay? Because they're trying to work off their list of problems. And if your product isn't on that list, then they're going to be a lot less interested in your product. The other one is to keep in mind, how can you show them that they are at risk if they don't change to your product? Okay? Everybody knows things like there's labor shortages, things like there's more automation. You could say continuing growing interest in sustainability. And if you don't get on those bandwagons, you're going to get left behind, is an example. But if you take a look, you can probably find a reason why you can sow a little seeds of doubt in their mind about, I hadn't thought of it that way. You're right. I should be a little more concerned. And then the idea of making sure you do your homework about what are they using today, why are they using it, what do they like about it, and what do they wish could be better. And then can you match what they're getting today and give them something that they wish could be better? And if you can do those things, all of a sudden you will be amazed at how quickly your prospective customers you're calling on will turn into very active listeners with a high degree of interest in your solution that you're talking to them about. So I hope this has been helpful. This is certainly with salespeople, but it's also important with your marketing messages, whether it's your website, trade show booth, and so forth, needs to speak in the same type of language. So I hope you have a great week, and this has been helpful. If your company could use some help in this area, please feel free to contact me.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Mark Mitchell on building materials, sales, and marketing. We hope he gave you some fresh perspectives on how to grow your sales, and will listen to future episodes.